The god of the universe sat on his throne, his gaze sharp and unforgiving as he looked upon the snake goddess and morning star.
Morning Star, you have been called to represent the snake goddess. Do you accept this burden?
I do, Morning Star replied, his voice steady.
The goddess stands accused of creating gods in her image. What say you?
The snake goddess, her eyes fixed on the floor, trembled with fear. She had not lifted her eyes since entering the court, too terrified to meet God's intense stare. My lord, Morning Star began, this is the second time the goddess kneels before you. The first was when Adam and Eve were cast out of the garden. God's gaze darkened, a silent warning for Morning Star to tread carefully. There can be no justice without truth, Morning Star continued, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. God was known to change the very air around him depending on his mood. Sometimes his rage would manifest as a storm, and Morning Star, aware of this, sought to preempt any such event.
Very well, go on, but be very careful, Morning Star.
God boomed, his voice echoing through the heavenly halls. Thank you, my lord, Morning Star said, bowing deeply. The matter of the garden in the eyes of many was not dealt with fairly. The goddess was not part of the original plan. Her image was misused, and she was harshly punished for it. All I'm saying is that if she had been tried and represented as she is today, perhaps the outcome would have been different. I ask for forgiveness on her behalf. The God of the universe listened intently, the words sinking deep into his heart. He was silent, pondering his next words. You are watching the Tales of the Savannah. Subscribe and be part of the tribe. Now let's get back to the story.
Morning Star, I have heard your plea, but the demigods that now roam the earth will not disappear because of my kindness and mercy. Remember the Nephilim? I had to send a flood to deal with that problem. When demigods are allowed to exist among humans, they cause havoc and destabilize the world. Gods cannot exist among men. Do you hear me, goddess?
He shouted, his voice like thunder. The snake goddess wept silently. She had not considered the full consequences when she granted the snake people their gifts. What have I done? She thought in despair. On behalf of the goddess Lord, we ask for her forgiveness, seeing that she has already been punished harshly in the past, Morning Star pleaded. The God of the universe sighed, his expression softening just a little.
Morning Star, I do not know why I indulge you. Very well. Goddess, stand. I will give my judgment now.
The snake goddess tried to rise, but her legs trembled so much that Morning Star had to help her up. Her body felt too heavy, burdened by the weight of her fear.
You are forgiven, but know this, I have vowed there will never be another flood to cleanse the earth. Instead, your people will face a natural exterminator. When the inhabitants of earth cry out to me for deliverance, I will answer. Whatever god or goddess they call upon, I will heed their plea.
Morning Star and the snake goddess bowed deeply and left the throne room, relief and dread mingling in their hearts. They felt the judgment was fair, but only time would tell what would become of her people. For now, thanks to Morning Star, she was still alive. In the middle of the dense forest, the family stood in stunned silence. Excitement buzzed in the air, but the shock of what they had just witnessed was still fresh. Suddenly, Cato began to change, his body lengthening and growing larger until he was no longer human but a massive snake. The others gasped, fear flashing in their eyes, but then they remembered. The gift was in them too. Before long, the forest was filled with the sound of hissing as one by one the family members transformed, their bodies twisting and stretching into powerful, sleek serpents. At first, they moved slowly, their new forms unfamiliar, but soon they were gliding through the forest with incredible speed, their movements smooth and controlled. Wild animals, sensing the new predators in their midst, scattered in fear. The family felt the thrill of power coursing through them as they raced through the trees, unstoppable and fierce. Eventually, Cato led them to a clearing where the others gathered around him, their eyes gleaming with newfound strength. Brothers, sisters, wives, children, Cato hissed, his voice carrying an edge of triumph. I promised you a way to defend ourselves, and here it is, infused in our blood. They smiled, feeling the power surging through their veins, a gift that made them more than human. With this strength, We can not only protect our trade, but conquer the world, Cato declared, a dark look crossing his face. And that is exactly what we will do. But first, Cato lowered his head, and the others followed his lead. We must give thanks to our Creator. Together they knelt on the forest floor, each one murmuring prayers of gratitude to the goddess for the gift she had given them. Meanwhile, in the heavens, the snake goddess sat in her chamber, a heavy weight pressing down on her. She felt as though her life was over, her purpose destroyed by the trial. What could she do now? She wished the God of the universe had ended her misery. She glanced at her screen, which kept her updated on the events unfolding in the heavens. The title blazed across the top: Snake Goddess creates demigods in her own image. Who will the people pray to when everything falls apart? Thousands of comments scrolled below, but she couldn't bring herself to read them. Just as she was about to turn off the screen, a notification popped up. You have received $30. She blinked in confusion. That couldn't be right. Who would give her such a large amount? Curiosity piqued. She clicked on the notification. To her astonishment, she saw that her people were giving thanks for the gift she had bestowed upon them. Another notification popped up. $60 received. She looked at the conversion rate table displayed at the top of the screen. 1 person is equal to 1 cent, 1 demigod is equal to 50 cents, 1 god or goddess is equal to $1. Every demigod she had created was worth 50 people, and she had made 30 of them. Her heart raced as she fell to the floor, her mouth open in shock. At this rate, she was well on her way to reaching the second tier of divine power. Hunters had begun to arrive from all over the world, gathering for the funeral and the battle that lay ahead. Each one carried their bows and arrows, ready to honor the fallen and fight in the upcoming battle. Django and Nandi welcomed them. Later that day, the hunters stood together in a circle, dressed in their solemn robes. In the center of the circle lay a wooden pyre, carefully constructed by the hunters. Upon it rested the body of Dr. Kofi, wrapped in a simple cloth. The healers led the ceremony, performing the ancient rituals that honored the dead and prepared the soul for its journey to the afterlife. The silence was broken only by the crackling of the torches and the murmured prayers of the healers. When the rituals were complete, Django stepped forward. His voice was strong but thick with emotion. I have known Dr. Kofi almost all his life. He was more than just a brother to me. He was a friend, not only to me, but to all of us. Django paused, looking at the faces of the hunters gathered around him. But now, that light has been extinguished. Kofi did not die a natural death. He was taken from us too soon by our age-old enemy, the Snake People. Dr. Kofi sacrificed his life in the line of duty, and the Brotherhood owes him a great debt. As we lay his soul to rest in the hands of the goddess, know this: vengeance will be ours. He turned to the pyre. Shadow, my brother, my friend, you have fought your last battle. Your light may be gone, but it will guide us still. Rest now, in the halls of our ancestors and in the bosom of the goddess, and know that your legacy will never be forgotten. With those final words, Django knelt beside the pyre and touched the torch to the wood. The flames caught quickly, growing into a roaring fire that began to consume the pyre. The hunters stood in silence, their anger ignited by the flames. As the fire roared, Django turned to face the hunters. "Hunters!" he called out, his voice cutting through the crackling of the fire. "Tomorrow we hunt!" The hunters echoed his words, their voices strong and united. "Tomorrow we hunt!" The Snake People began to arrive from all corners of the world, slipping silently through hidden back tunnels. The city's main tunnels were blocked and heavily watched, so they had to take the long, secret paths to reach their destination. When they finally emerged and saw Queen Asa, they all fell to their knees, shame and regret heavy in their hearts. "Forgive us, Queen Asa," they pleaded. "We didn't believe the news of your return. We thought it was just a hoax," Asa replied, her voice soft and reassuring. "You are here now, and that's all that matters," calming their fears. The tunnels buzzed with activity as Asa, her people, and the mermaids prepared for the battle ahead. A massive trench was being dug, connecting the underground tunnels to the sea. It was hard, grueling work, but it had to be done by hand and done quickly. Buckets of sand were hauled away, the sound of shovels scraping against the earth echoing through the tunnels. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the trench was complete. Huge pipes were carefully installed, connecting the sea to the tunnel system. Asa watched nervously as the final pieces were put into place. "Do you think this will hold?" Asa asked Kita, the general of the merfolk. "Yes, Queen Asa," Kita replied with confidence. "It will hold." Asa nodded, but her mind was still heavy with worry. So much depended on this tunnel. It had to work. Failure wasn't an option. She glanced around at her people who were working tirelessly, their faces set with determination. She couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness as she remembered the lives lost at Snake Island. She could still hear the screams from that day, the terrible explosion, and suddenly the smell of smoke filled her senses as if it were happening all over again. Her heart raced, memories flooding back, overwhelming her. "Shh, we're okay." Amina's voice broke through the haze, steady and calming. "We have to be strong, for our people. Snake Island is the past, and we must focus on the battle ahead." Asa shook her head, her voice trembling. "Amina, you don't understand what happened that day." Seeing the fear in Asa's eyes, Amina quickly took over the body, her own heart pounding as she tried to prevent Asa from spiraling into panic. "I've been at war with the hunters, and they are vicious," Asa continued, her voice almost breaking. "And so are we," Amina said, her voice firm and full of confidence. Asa looked at her, a small smile tugging at her lips. She was grateful to have Amina by her side this time. Asa closed her eyes, and with every ounce of strength left in her, she whispered a prayer to the goddess. She could feel the weight of her people's trust, their lives placed in her hands, their hopes pinned on her ability to lead them to victory. The echoes of past failures threatened to pull her down, but she fought against them, channeling her fear into resolve. Victory was not just an option, it was a necessity. She opened her eyes, filled with renewed strength, ready to face whatever came next. For her people, for their future, she would not fail. Victory would be theirs. This was the end of Day 7. And that, my dear tribe members, is the end of yet another episode in our Snake Island series. A big thank you to our dear tribe member for yet another super chat. I bought a cup of coffee, and boy did it taste good. Thank you. And to all my tribe members, thank you for your continued support. It means the world to me. In the last episode, I asked who you think will win the battle, and most of you said the snake people. You still have time to change your opinion, so let me know in the comments below. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. Are you ready for the long-awaited battle? Do stay tuned. And as always, thank you for watching our story, and we hope you enjoyed it. What lessons did you draw from this story? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and be part of the tribe. Thank you for watching The Tales of the Savannah. We will see you next time in the Savannah.